Good afternoon and good morning, or probably some of you in the other part of the world, and maybe it's not a morning or afternoon, but welcome. Welcome to our series of webinar hosted by APPGM SDGs, My SDG Academy, and also ASEC, ASEAN Solidarity Economic Council. I am Chandra. I will be your host during this today webinar. I'm the secretary in the secretariat of ASEC. And also we will discuss something that probably like not so technical, but it is very fundamental actually. We will talk about peace, something that we come up in my mind, but we don't see the form, but this is actually the foundation of all we do in the development of our activity. So without further ado, we will start the webinar with some rundown here. We will hear the opening, the welcoming speech from the My SDG Academy as one of the organizer of this webinar. And then we will listen to Dr. Benjamin Quinones, the founder of ASEC. We will listen about what is really SSE and why SSE is really meaningful, and it is really understand, and it's really important not only to be understood but also to be applied in any of our sectors. And then we will hear like a highlight of the peace and the SDG number 16 and 17 about the peace and networking. So I will invite Zoel as many activities from the last year actually, and not last 1 year, but the last 2 years. There are so many series of activity that we do together. And this is the importance of the accelerating SDGs. And there is one thing that one important moment is it is recognized by United Nations that accelerating SDG is very important, not only because of the lack of the achievement, but because we still believe in the SDG itself. So let's hear the welcoming remarks from Zoel. Zoel, yours.
Thank you. Hello, Chandra, and good day to everyone here. First of all, welcome, and also happy to have you. I see many familiar names, faces here, and also some new names here, and also some role player here. I would say that this webinar is important. It's not only a one-way webinar. This is actually the third online engagement for the work that we are doing. So, as many of you might know, on the 22nd and 23rd, we are going to have the ASEAN SDG-SSE conference. And one of the key objectives of this conference is to develop a roadmap for 2026 to 2030. And we have Dr. Dennison, Dr. Ari, Dr. Bent, and Prof. Rashilas, Dr. Victors, and the team of people that putting up this panel, this roadmap. And therefore, for today, in the beginning, from the first sections, there is some discussion and stimulation, but after that, there is a breakup room. And I really encourage every one of you, you can put in your input you can verbally tell us, you can type in the chat box and we'll capture it. And your input is important for the roadmap. And after that, it's not just a piece of paper. We also hope that you might be part of it and take actions. So this I would say that this journey is like what Chandra said. It's a 2 years journey. It started from last year. That we have the My SDG Academic Conference. Actually, before that, there's a lot of work done by my advisor, Professor Dr. Dennison, Dr. Ben, and also the team of exec. So we have the conference last year, and later on, there is a continuous programs going on, including side event in HRPF and also a series of webinars, and now come to the online engagement. And next month, we are going to meet in person. So thank you very much to journey together with us. And I also want to thank Hirza, who have been doing all the background work. So welcome you all, and I hope to see you in person in Kuala Lumpur. Back to you, Chandra.
Thank you, Joel. So we will have a session in the Kuala Lumpur on May, but I must highlight it that that is not the end of our journey. Actually, that is part of the start of the journey, because our journey, we have the same timeline with SDG itself, it is until 2030. So the webinar, this is part of the third webinar of the SDG thematic theme, but previously there are also previous webinars also, and you can find the documentation in the My SDG Academy YouTube. Yeah, please, you can visit there and you can find the documentation of our previous activities. And also for the one main event, the closest one is the Kuala Lumpur in May. And then we will have, of course, another series of activity right afterward. Okay, so we come to the part where we will actually, because not only me, but the ASEC team, we are waiting for Dr. Benjamin Quinones. He is one of the founder of the ASEC, together with Dato' Denison and also with Mr. Bambang Ismawan from Indonesia. So Dr. Ben is actually, like I say, I call him Tito Ben. It is, and he insists me to call him that way. That means uncle in Philippines. Okay, so because I'm still considered myself as a young person lah, yeah. So he adopt me like a nephew for him. So he's my uncle. So he's my mentor and he's my guru, not only for myself, but here come Dr. Ben. Thank you for coming and being together with us. Okay, so yeah, can I please? Okay, before we listen to Dr. Ben, I'd like to share what I learned from Dr. Ben about the SSE itself. This is the one very interesting that I learned, because actually I was I was a banker, yeah, until 2015, and then I do some other activity after that. And then I just realized that there is other word than capitalism. So honestly, I know only capitalism before. Then after that, I realized that there is an other economy system, which is actually, this should be the one. We want clean, when we want clean energy, proper social operation, and so on and so on. But we want a good fruit, but we never make a good trees. We never build like healthy trees. What are the trees for the social solidarity economy? And they are the SSE entities, the enterprise group, and so on. So when the enterprise, when the business entities or the economy entities are not healthy, then we will not harvest a good fruits. And we know that some of the major problem in the world actually rooted in the economy. So when we do not have like a good economy, then we do not have a decent work. We do not have clean energy, and so on and so on. So this is the basic understanding of my understanding about SSE, and Dr. Ben emphasized that that is not the main purpose of SSE, because the SSE want to build the ecosystem. So the ecosystem of tree are forests, and the forest is create a greater impact than the trees combined. The whole is greater than the sum of its part. So we are not only asking and training people or entities, organization to become the good trees, but let's work together, let's become the forest. So we build the ecosystem of healthy economy, social solidarity economy. Okay, I'll stop my sharing, and then we listen to Dr. Benjamin Quinones. Dito, Ben?
Good morning, Chandra. Thank you for the introduction. I'd just like to greet also our colleagues, Dato Denison, Dr. Madalbi Panda, Dr. Eri, our chairperson, Dr. Victor Caronan, Akanot from Thailand, and also Erawat Irmantyu. He was formerly associated with us as Secretary of the Coordinator of ASEC Indonesia. So good morning, everyone. Just to uh, tell you that social solidarity economy is now a global ecosystem being promoted by the UN. It is because it is a recognition of the contribution of people, organized groups of people like cooperatives, associations, mutual societies, NGOs, foundations, social enterprises, and separate groups. These are organizations of the people that contribute also to the sustainable development goals. And many of them are operating in the informal sector. And as you know, those operating in the informal sector oftentimes are not included in the official statistics of the government. So it is estimated that in Asia Pacific, about around 70% of labor are operating in the informal sector. So the contribution of SSE, particularly those organized groups of enterprises, to GDP is quite substantial. For that reason, the United Nations recognized that the social data economy ecosystem is quite important for localizing the SDGs and achieving the SDGs. So this is quite phenomenal because it is for the first time recognized globally by the United Nations the contributions of small groups of people. Sometimes they are called micro small enterprises if they are organized, registered. But many of these entities are operating in the informal sector. So with this, I hope that our webinar today can give some light on the contributions of SSE on the topic of partnerships and peace. This is very important because SSE entities are based on partnerships and they promote peace by focusing on economic development, providing jobs, protecting the environment, and providing opportunities for small people, for downtraded and marginalized people to have a participation in the economic development of the country. So with that, thank you very much, Chandra, for giving me the occasion to greet everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Ben, for your brief introduction of the SSE, and Dr. Ben has already mentioned that UN has recognized SSE as a tool to accelerate the achievement of SDGs. And okay, and we will come to the main session of this webinar. We will hear the presentation of the SDG 16 and 17 from Dr. Khairil Ahmad. He is one of the director in APBGM SDGs. Hello, Dr. Khairil. Good to have you here. Hello.
Hi, good to be here.
Okay, yeah, nice to have you with us and give us insight about the peace and the SDGs. And Dr. Khairil has some literature and reference writing about the peace in Asia and also in the global context. So without further ado, I will allow Dr. Khairil to deliver his presentation, and to all of you participant, if you want to give a comment along the presentation, then you are welcome to put your comment in the chat box, and then we will discuss it later after the presentation. And also we will have a session of breakout room right after the presentation and Q&A. We will have breakout room because like Zoel has already mentioned in the beginning that this is not a one-way communication in this webinar. You will not only hear from us, but we also want to hear from you about the several topics that we will mention after the Q&A. So you are very, very welcome to be part of building this pathway to the sustainability. Okay, over to you, Dr. Carriel.
Thank you very much, Chandra. It's very nice to meet everybody here. Of course, Datuk Dennison, who I know well, our head of secretariat here at APPGM SDG, Dr. Quinones. Thank you very much for the very enlightening opening remarks. I think you've set the agenda into a very proper context. And to Chandra as well, who mentioned a very simple statement, but a very powerful one, and that we need peace. And this is basically something that's very much urgently needed at the moment. Yeah, so peace and partnership, these are two of the 5 Ps of the SDGs, as we call it. Sometimes they're known as the 4 Ps, and peace and partnership are basically conflated or subsumed together. But they're unique in the sense that they cover only 2 specific individual SDGs, which are 16 and 17, but they are very important nonetheless. And before I came to the session, having prepared the slides, I was actually reflecting on the kind of messaging that I'm bringing to the table here, and unfortunately, it feels a bit grim. The kind of stuff that that can be highlighted when we're talking about the importance of achieving peace and also driving that peace through partnership, because there's a global context that would inform this this need for peace today. So what I aim to do today is to basically highlight some of the outstanding issues that still very much impeding the SDG progress, both globally and also more regionally, as we're talking about ASEAN in this context today. But I'll also then highlight some of the key targets that SSE can actually or are actively contributing towards the peace and partnership pillar or theme of the overall SDGs. Okay, so this is basically what 16 and 17 is all about. 16 is basically the goal to promote peaceful and inclusive societies for sustainable development, provide access to justice for all, and build effective, accountable, and inclusive institutions at all levels. For the most part, it deals with aspects that are related to what we can broadly call human rights sort of issues. But at the same time, as I'll show in my presentation, it also holds relevance to all the works that's been going on within the SSE sphere. 17 most definitely is very relevant to SSE, as mentioned earlier by Dr. Quinones. Partnerships is very key in driving the upliftment of the livelihoods of communities on the ground, and in making sure that those whose voices are not heard, and those who are not necessarily involved in the more formal sectors of the economy are being taken care of. So I'll be highlighting a number of targets that are very much relevant, and I'll try to contextualize these targets in the context of ASEAN, and how we can work together towards achieving those targets. But before that, as I mentioned earlier, this is a message that's also found in, for example, the UN SDG report 2024. There's a global context that basically sets the tone for the urgency of, or for the urgent need of all of us to try to accelerate the fulfillment of the SDGs. And this is unfortunately the context that we are facing today. I think the list can be much longer than this, but I was thinking of some of the stuff that's been happening around us that will very much have an impact as to how all of us progress in terms of fulfilling all the SDG goals that's been set to be fulfilled by 2030, which of course, as mentioned earlier as well by Chandra, is quite far away as we speak at the moment. There's geopolitical tensions around the world. Wars are happening. These are all highlighted as well in the SDG 2024 report. And of course, as we speak, unimaginable horrors is taking place in Gaza and the West Bank, in Palestine. The superpower, if we can call it that, that's been setting the tone for international relations and diplomacy. The US has also basically changed, or has pivoted to a very different approach in dealing with the international community. I've borrowed this term, a rogue superpower, from Professor Jeffrey Sachs. This is how he's characterized the US today. Of course, we are all still smarting from the announcement of the so-called reciprocal tariffs from a few weeks ago that brought a lot of shock to international, or to the global economy. And of course, at the same time, because of everything that's happening, there's also a trust deficit amongst different regions and also different countries towards global governance structures. Environmental crises are, of course, accumulating towards more and more issues, not just globally, but also locally. Economic growth is also slowing, and this is something that's also well documented in, for example, UN reports. And I think in the SDG report 2024, there is a discussion about how per capita GDP growth has pretty much slowed down amongst some of the most vulnerable countries in the world. And politically as well, of course, there's a lot of issues that's taking place all over the world, with especially with the insurgence of a very toxic, xenophobic and racist rhetoric in many contexts. So this is the kind of global context that we are looking at today that will definitely and inevitably bring about a lot of challenges in terms of how we try to galvanize and mobilize our communities on the ground, in terms of how we put in efforts to try to uplift situations that are being faced by those communities, especially in, of course, economic terms, as Chandra mentioned earlier, because a lot of the focus is on the economy, but the ecosystem itself is very much dependent on the need for stability and peace, and also the need for different stakeholders to partner together, not only at the local levels, but also at the global and international level. So I think the key argument that I put forward today, it's not really a groundbreaking one. It's not really an original one, but I think it's a very pertinent one. In that there's got to be peace and there's got to be greater partnerships, especially at the regional level at ASEAN, especially given the global context that we are faced with today. And this is something that in the past couple of weeks as well has gained a lot of traction. If we take a look at a lot of the stuff that's been coming out from the governments around ASEAN, there's been a lot of calls for there to be more regional partnerships to be undertaken in order to face all the challenges that will be coming from outside the region, but that would inevitably have a massive impact on the region's socio-economic context. So then in terms of SDG progress, because I mentioned it earlier, I think it's good to also highlight some of the worries that the UN has with regard to our SDG achievements. I think many of you will know this already, but I think the message cannot be drummed up enough because of how urgent it is now at the point where we're at to try to accelerate the fulfillment of the SDGs. And the UN says we are severely off track in terms of fulfilling all the SDGs. I think what I have in the slide here is something that many of you will be familiar with, but it's just a graphics to highlight how far behind globally we are in terms of fulfilling all these goals. And of course, there's variation as to how different countries have worked towards fulfilling all the goals that are relevant to their respective contexts. I'm Malaysian, so one thing that the Malaysian government has announced since last year was that as far as our national indicators go, we have surpassed global achievements. But at the same time, there's worry that for a number of the SDG goals, we are actually still lacking behind. For example, goal number 2, zero hunger, and also 16, which is one of the goals that we are trying to cover today. ASEAN, sorry.
Dr. Kaidel, sorry
Yes.
to interrupt. I'm curious about the data that you share here. It shows that the SDGs are severely off track, and this data comes before the uprising of the tension that threatening the peace currently, correct? So I mean the future FDG is really threatened because of this today's situation where peace and partnership are really in a fragile position. Is it like this or like that? What do you think?
Yeah. You're right, Chandra. The data was published last year in the 2024 SDG report. But already in the report, you see, especially in the messaging that's coming from people who are running the SDG agenda in the UN, warning us of the challenges that lie ahead. But of course, at the same time, as I'll show later, there's a rallying call that was put out by Antonio Guterres, the Secretary General, calling for more, for example, solidarity and also partnership. But you're absolutely right. This data is something that was published already previously, and the kind of challenges that are forthcoming may actually be more severe than what we've already faced. But we also have to remember that a lot of this progress was also disrupted by COVID before this. So it's not like previously there's been no challenges. I mean, there have been challenges previously, including especially the COVID pandemic. That's why some of this progress has been has been disrupted, and countries are trying to basically catch up in terms of fulfilling some of their goals that's been disrupted by COVID. But definitely there are worries as to what's going to happen going forward because of all this other challenges. But at the same time, what's been happening with regard to Trump's trade policies was not anticipated by the report. I don't think it was anticipated by many people, although there was worry that it would, it would come to something like this. It wasn't really.
Nobody expect that.
Exactly, yeah. So there's a lot of unknowns going forward.
Yeah.
I think that's the overwhelming worry amongst people who are very much invested in the SDGs. But one good thing, as I mentioned, is that there is realization within the UN that there will be unexpected challenges. It depends on how all of us, people who are very much believing and investing in the SDGs, will come together in partnership. And that's why I think the theme of partnership is very, very urgently needed right now. So with regard to ASEAN, I mean, the picture is not that much different. Just highlighting just the quote from the Asia and the Pacific SDG Progress Report, also from 2024. Achieving the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development in Asia and the Pacific will take an extraordinary collective effort. On its current trajectory, the region will not meet any of the 17 SDGs per the agreed deadline. Current estimates show this will not be reached before 2062, at least 32 years behind schedule. This is basically for Asia and the Pacific, which of course includes ASEAN as well. And this is the data from for Southeast Asia. It's just a snapshot of SDG progress. You can see there's one that's regressing, and that's climate action. But our interest today is, of course, the last two, 16 and 17, which until 2023 has not necessarily progressed as projected before. With 16 especially, the challenge in many contexts is the lack of indicators and data. And that's something, again, just to highlight the context of Malaysia and the fact that I mentioned earlier that 16 is one of those indicators one of those targets that we are still trying to accelerate because we're still behind. The challenge actually has been with regard to effective monitoring of progress on goal 16. And that's something that we at APPGM SDG are also looking into in terms of trying to help the government here in looking at how a more effective sort of monitoring of achievements of goal 16 can be done. Of course, just like any other regions, there are multiple challenges that is facing ASEAN. There's another document here that is, I think, interesting to be looked at if you're interested to zoom into ASEAN more specifically. And I'm just basically highlighting some of those challenges. There may be more, there will be more, I'm very sure, but these are some of the more apparent ones that we in the ASEAN context are facing. One would be poverty, but multidimensional poverty, because according to the report, ASEAN governments have done a lot in terms of trying to address income poverty, but more needs to be done in terms of trying to address multidimensional poverty, in the sense that most especially in addressing safety nets for households and communities who are living in poverty, to make sure that they can withstand future shocks. Because earlier we were talking about what the future holds, right? And the future can bring about shocks that can make life even more difficult for those communities. And this is one of those things that needs to be looked into in terms of, for example, providing quality access to education, providing quality access to healthcare, and so on. And of course, inequality as well is one of those challenges that is still being faced. All the different dimensions of inequality, not only wealth inequality, but also gender inequality, for example, also social inequality, and digital divide, people's access to digital facilities and infrastructures and so on. I mentioned gender inequality, also data and tracking gaps. I've mentioned earlier already with regard to SDG 16, but overall, there's also that challenge, more broadly speaking, that's faced within ASEAN, especially in terms of having high quality data that would allow us to not only track but also intervene in different socioeconomic challenges that's faced by our communities. And the other one is with regard to localizing the SDG agenda with, of course, SSE initiatives are contributing so much towards, and this is something that the document here also acknowledges in different contexts within ASEAN. This is just a quick one. I mentioned just now that there is a rallying call that's coming from the UN in terms of trying to make up for lost time, because there's only about 5 years left in terms of the deadline to fulfill the SDGs. I'm highlighting this because there are some signaling words there that's appropriate for the context of the peace and partnership discussion. One, Guterres says we need peace. All these conflicts needs to be resolved through dialogue, diplomacy, and also through the principles of the international community through the Charter of the UN. We also need solidarity, especially in terms of financing the SDGs. And this is one of those big contributions that the SSE initiatives are doing from the ground. It's one of those innovative methods to basically not only accelerate the fulfillment of the SDGs, but also to finance SDGs from a less sort of from through an innovative kind of framework. And of course, there's got to be partnerships in terms of investing in efforts to ignite the surge in the implementation of the SDGs. Okay. So this is something that I've taken from the UN Interagency Task Force, which has a very nifty document in which they map how SSEs are supporting all the different SDGs. And I'm just pulling out the parts on 16 and 17. So let's just start with 16. Of course, all the SDGs, they're very much interconnected and intertwined. But more specifically, with regard to 16.6, which is develop effective, accountable, and transparent institutions at all levels, is very much the direction towards which SSE initiatives are contributing, because good governance is very important in trying to address issues related to, for example, social protection. Again, Dr. Quinones mentioned the informal sector, for example, of whom the workers are not necessarily enjoying enough social protection and safety nets for the work that they do. Also, in terms of allowing for a more participatory form of governance to take shape, because initiatives through the SSE framework, they're not just activities that are revenue generating, full stop, but they contribute a lot more in terms of the ethical values that the framework actually enjoins, for example, and also the kind of participatory action that happens very naturally from the ground. And this is something that is very important for any governments to tap into in order to make sure that there is participation amongst people on the ground with policy making and also with governance. And this is something that is actually can be quite lacking in many contexts, because sometimes policy making and also governance can be quite top-down. And it's very much driven by data, or even worse, perceptions of policymakers, which are not necessarily speaking to ground realities. So that's how 16 is supported through SSE initiatives. The one that is more, I guess, more involved would be 17. And I'm highlighting quite a number of targets for SDG 17 here in terms of how SSE supports the SDGs. So to go back to the theme of the formal and informal economy, to the extent that SSE is an important means of transitioning from informal to formal economy, if that is something that's happening within our respective ecosystems. In Malaysia, for example, we've had a long drawn discussion about how exactly can legislation account for the presence of all these informal workers. I think Dr. Quinones mentioned 70% of workers in Asia Pacific are informal workers. We have quite a large sort of percentage of informal workers as well in the country, but there's been a long drawn debate and discussion about how exactly can labor laws here account for their existence, if I can put it that way, especially in terms of recognition, their status as workers, because recognition is not only purely conceptual, but it also will have an impact on social protection mechanisms and so on. Also, in terms of how that discussion can also support the governments, our respective government, in terms of broadening its tax revenue, because if there is a motivation towards formalizing the informal sort of economy, then the entire society can benefit as well, because it's a partnership in a sense. There's also questions surrounding how allocation and funding can be done in a more innovative way, in a way that supports more partnership driven, rather than just being something that is very sort of profit driven. As mentioned earlier by Chandra, right? Before this, it's all capitalism, but we're bound to basically try to explore different models through which the economy can be financed, and the SSE model is definitely one of them. But it's not just a domestic question, but the beautiful thing about SDG 17 is that it also enjoins for partnerships at a more international level. And this is something, if I were to go back to my earlier point about all the upheavals that's been happening around the world, and my call for there to be more partnerships, especially in the ASEAN region, it's something that the UN itself has recognized in listing, in coming up with the different SDG 70 targets. It recognizes the fact that there's a need for there to be partnerships that would basically help countries in the global south catch up with whatever that they need to do to try to not only fulfill the SDG agenda, but also to come to terms with their global north, more industrialized global north counterparts. And here, South-South cooperation is something that is very crucial. And this is, again, to draw from the Malaysian experience. This is something that Malaysia has actually invested a lot into for many decades now, even if we're not a global north country. So a lot of allocation actually is being put towards sharing our technical expertise and also running capacity building programs and initiative for the benefit of global south counterparts. And of course, ASEAN countries are some of those countries that have benefited a lot from this experience sharing. At the moment, I'm not sure how much actually has been done in terms of basically offering technical assistance and experience sharing to the direction of the SSE kind of initiatives. But I think that's something that can be discussed going forward as well within our respective context, and also in the context of ASEAN. The other thing that is crucial for partnerships is actually data. This is where many of the data related targets are found. And this is something that is very important to be emphasized upon amongst all of us, because one of the challenges, if I can put it that way, that we have at the moment is with regard to how data is collated and also reported at the more official level, i.e. at the level of government. And many data and also information that's coming from the ground are neglected in the official sort of reporting mechanisms. And that puts a lot of local communities at a disadvantage, because many of those data can actually be very valuable resources for policymakers to actually determine the kind of initiatives and also assistance that needs to be put into in amongst different communities, be they the people who are living in poverty, or also people who are basically trying to mobilize the resources they have in terms of developing economies in their local context. But this is something that is really not happening at an effective level. And this is something that I think all of us need to try to emphasize and push, whichever context we're from. And if at the ASEAN context, there is a platform for there to be a discussion on the need for a more pluralized sources for data, that would be really, really good. So I think that's where the strength of partnership lies. It's not just partnership within our own sort of domestic and local context, but also in the regional context. Because in the end of the day, ASEAN is very much part of the Global South. It's very much part of the Global South solidarity sphere, if I can put it that way. A lot of efforts can be pulled together in order to try to accelerate the fulfillment of the SDGs, not only by way of just agreeing that we need to work together, but also actually by putting in real resources, in putting in the finances, in making sure that there is enough sharing that's going on between all the different peoples within our region to make sure that we can navigate the future more effectively. So that's basically what I'd like to cover in this presentation. Just a quick overview as to what's happening within the final two P's of the SDGs, peace and partnership. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Khairil. And if you mean that if you watch closely on what's happening in Malaysia specifically, so what is or any initiative or to build the peace and partnership more aggressively, or more comprehensive initiative, whether it is by government or CSO or any other parties, to build the peace and partnership during this current situation?
In the Malaysian context, there's definitely a lot of things that's been taking place in terms of building partnerships. And also, of course, in terms of addressing a lot of the gaps that we still have here in Malaysia in terms of fulfilling SDG 16. You mentioned government and civil society. So these are more or less the two major sort of agents that's involved in this kind of development and conversation. From the government part, there's been a lot of initiatives in terms of trying to include more and more stakeholders into the SDG conversation and also into the SDG related policy implementation. And this is something that we can track for many years now, especially in terms of fulfilling one of the SDG 17, which is policy coherence. Policy coherence is 17.14, and that's where the government has tried to make sure that there is a governance structure that is accommodative and inclusive enough for the inclusion of many different stakeholders, not only government stakeholders. So that's done through our National SDG Council, and we also have a National SDG Center that basically monitors SDG implementation across all sectors in the country. But on the civil society side, there's been a lot of work as well in terms of trying to make sure that grassroots and civil society voices are heard more effectively. And there are coalitions of CSOs that work specifically within the SDG framework, for example. That's one example. And at the same time, civil society organizations are, for the most part, very comfortable in working within the SDG language. So a lot of their work, no matter what they are, and many of them work within the human rights sphere, are able to translate their work into the SDG language, which is, is very important, because then it mobilizes the conversation towards the SDG direction. So these are some of the stuff that's being done. In terms of partnership, of course, there's also partnerships that's been taking place for a long time in Malaysia between the private sector and also civil society, especially in terms of implementing corporate social responsibility initiatives, for example. This would be one of the contributions that the private sector would have in terms of giving back to the community. And they would oftentimes partner with NGOs and also CSOs to implement these initiatives. So these are some of the stuff that's been happening. All very positive, but there's still a lot of gaps. Still a lot of gaps, yeah. So I don't want to sound so upbeat about this, but there's still a lot of challenges as well.
Yeah, it's like a never-ending project, actually. Yeah. Yeah. So at least, yeah, we do something to fill the gap. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Dear friends, so if you have anything to be discussed with Dr. Khairil, and we welcome you, and via chat box, or you can raise your hand, and then I will give you time to communicate or interact with Dr. Khairil. Okay. First, okay. Right after this, right after Dr. Ben, I will respond to the chat box from Jose Rizal. Okay, now, Dr. Benjamin, anything you want to say?
Thank you, Chandra. Thank you, Dr. Khairil, for that very comprehensive review of the achievement of SDGs and your comment about the achievements in Malaysia. In fact, I'm so amazed about the approach of Malaysia involving the three sectors: the public sector, the private sector, and the civil society sector, in localizing the SDGs through the All-Party Parliamentary Group of Malaysia, or SDGs. This is a model of partnership that is really at the forefront of innovation, because at first, the promotion of SDGs was made by the Society for the Promotion of SDGs. This was initiated by Dato Denison and his colleagues. And then the Society for Promotion of SDGs was able to convince the Parliament of Malaysia that this is a worthy cause. And so, because the Parliament of Malaysia recognized the important role of the society, the Parliament created this all-party parliamentary group Malaysia and integrated the society, the NGO called Society for the Promotion of SDGs, as the secretariat of APPGM. Very, very unique innovation, institutional innovation. And I hope that we can learn a lot from the experience of Malaysia in this kind of partnership for promoting SDGs during the forum itself, because it should be, highlighted in the ASEAN summit. This kind of partnership that Malaysia has initiated, and I hope that this can be made visible in the ASEAN summit and can be discussed at the ASEAN summit, so that it can serve as a model for all member countries of ASEAN to follow. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ben. No, thank you for the very kind words. I'm obviously very proud to be part of the team here as well, because of the kind of opportunities that we have as well as individuals to contribute to the society. But I think you're right. It's if we're talking about localizing SDGs, then it's important to try to find innovative ways to try to get to the ground. And this is one of those ways to basically get to the ground, because I mean, the received wisdom with policy making is the government always has boots on the ground. That's basically what we're told. We are speaking to policymakers, which is true, right? Because government would of course have the resources to try to understand the needs on the ground and all that. But at the same time, the way the costs and the benefits, the trade-offs of of the kind of data that policymakers would have would be a little bit different than the kind of maybe calculations that people like us will do, because in the end of the day, if we're working within the SDG framework, we have to hold on very strongly to that promise of leaving no one behind. So we're trying to amplify as many voices as possible from the ground, and then we want to put all those voices on the table and try to find a way forward and a solution. And I think you're right. I mean, we need to find more and more ways to more and more channels to localize the SDGs. And then APPGM is definitely one of those channels. And if there can be more in the future, it'd be great as well. In especially within the ASEAN sort of region, because that's the context that we're working with as well. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Karil, for your response. So let's move to the other participant, Jose Rizal from Gabungan E-Hailing Malaysia, asking two questions. The first, I will answer it, how to become a ASEC member. You can visit our website and also contact with I advise you to connect to the local organization, is that. And since you are in Malaysia, and then I suggest you to communicate with APPGM SDGs or my SDG Academy, and they will assess how we can make a greater collaboration through our organization. And the second one, ASEC opinion about workers' cooperative idea. And for this one, I'd like to invite Dr. Akanat. Are you here? Okay, okay. I see Dr. Akanat already turned.
Yes, hi Chandra. And good morning, everyone. Yes, I saw the questions, and I would say that from my personal opinion, not on behalf of ASEC, because we still have to discuss among ASEC members. Workers' cooperative is definitely SSE entity. I would say genuinely SSE entities. And I searched a little bit on organization of Jose Rizal, and I found that, well, what you are doing in Malaysia was actually in line with what we are doing here in Thailand. We organize platform workers, gig workers, and also we try to work together and create a platform for the workers so that they can, offer alternative to consumers, without who have to work under bad condition under the capitalist platform. And I would be more than happy to meet with Jose and your friend. I'm coming to Malaysia soon, and it would be great that we could connect and we can share experience and, maybe what we are doing here in Thailand, the platform, if you think it can adopt into your local context, maybe we can talk. Yeah, but definitely worker cooperatives is SSE entity.
Sorry, Chandra, if I could just come in here quickly, because I'm
Yeah,
familiar
please.
with Mr. Jose Rizal as well. I'm sure that Mr. Rizal is would agree with me that the discussion in Malaysia on platform and also gig workers has been going on for a long time. So perhaps there is a way to take a look at how frameworks that's being used elsewhere can also be adapted here as being discussed. Actually, at one point, even our Human Rights Commission in Malaysia took up um, the issue of gig workers. Though I don't know where it went after that, but at one point I remember I was also involved in some of the engagement because they wanted to see it as a human rights sort of issue as well, which very much speaks to, of course, SDG 16 as well. This is just to add that quickly. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for Dr. Khairul for the addition. Okay, last question from the chat box from Karthik about the placement of the environmental. Actually, we have put the environmental and planet topic in the second discussion, which is last month. So hopefully that you can find the further discussion in the recording in the My SDG Academy YouTube. But in short, we all put the priority of environmental equal to other. So we will not say that of course profit not the top. People, yes, it is. But the other, the environment will be also placed the same as the people because we are seeing ourselves as in the ecology. So we are equal to the environment. So when we do the same, actually we will have the sustainability. But that is our personal point of view. What we need actually to advocate is to promote it to others. I believe that all we have the same perspective about the placing the environment and the people. And but how about the others? So that's what we must do. We must promote this paradigm. We must promote this understanding, and we also must push our government to not only just make a policy but also do and uphold the policy about the putting environment in the equality as the people and profit. Okay, so okay, thank you Hirsa for putting the link to our last discussion, the second discussion related to planet. Okay, friends, we will go to the breakout room session. There will be guidance from Hirsa, maybe. There will be 2 breakout room that you may choose which room that you want to contribute. Okay, so in this breakout room, it's not only for you to listen, but we listen to all of us, each other. So we learn each other from in this breakout room. Okay, now I see that everyone is going back to the main room now. I see. I feel the heat uprising in every room. Yeah, I visit room 1 and also I visit room 2. So we need more time. So apparently, but we will summarize the discussion in this room, and then we'll deliver to you, not from this right after this, and also using the email, because once you register for this webinar, and then we will be able to communicate with you for further interaction regarding this topic and the future one. Okay. Who will start? Maybe who finished earlier? Oh, Iman. Yeah, from the room one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, Iman. Over to you.
Sorry. What, Chandra?
I'm sorry. Will you share the like some kind of summary in your room?
Sure. I just give you the point lah. Number one is
Yeah, just the pointer.
some of the organization, especially in those on the Philippines and so on, work in silo is number one. Number two is most organization, some of them are influenced by their personal branding and so on, but due to this factor, some of them will work alone, and actually this is more on say influenced by the demographic and also the culture in their organization and also their country. Number three is on some organization don't have any systematic approach for people from different background to work together. And number four, I would say on the familiarity on the business for the social right. For example, like we say that about SSE. SSE is something like a new, especially for the youth and also someone entrepreneurs that are try to emerge in the new industry and also their industry. And lastly, I would say in terms of we have in terms of the government have a lot of initiative in the social program, but we still lack of the grassroots involvement to make sure that some of the policy can include all people around all the stakeholder, something like that. Yeah, I think that's all.
Okay. Thank you, Iman. There are a lot of good pointers that actually it is they are all interesting to be discussed further, but we don't have we will discuss it later. We will accommodate all of the feedback from the room 1 and room 2, and not only for from this webinar, but also from the previous ones. So we will conduct a later discussion about this. Okay, right after here's deliver her summary, we will end our webinar. And before we end our webinar, I'd like to invite you to open your camera, and we will do a photo group. Okay. Now I like to invite Hirsa to share. So yeah, from the
for
discussion.
breakout room session 2, so basically the first question, I asked what are their experience on SSE community models or principles that impact local communities. So we had 2 sharing, one by Josephine. So she shared how important it is to partner with many stakeholders as it gives growth to the organization. And also the organization is also able to promote 5 dimensions of SSE. So, and also like with their activities or also with their products that they've been doing with the local community, they also like somehow able to do like bottom-top approach, whereby when they act locally with the local communities, with the home-based workers, they are able to they can actually try to, I would say, because like when we are stronger from the local communities, we are able to influence on the government level, so the top level. So okay, these are the impacts that we have been doing. So I hope there will be more initiatives taken by the government to improve some of these aspects. And also even with Dr. Aris sharing, she shared how Bina Swadaya has been transformed from a movement to a self-help group and also to a social enterprise. And then it is all about transforming from donor dependent organization to self-reliance organization. So basically that's what SSE has been trying to promote, how SSE model can be used to get organizations or small organizations, especially, or the medium enterprises, small and medium enterprises, to be self-sufficient and reliant instead of depending on donor. And lastly, on the impacts on SDGs, so basically from the sharings, they shared how the most related SDGs are on SDG 1, zero hunger, second, no poverty, and then there's also on SDG 8, decent work, and also economic growth. So these are the SDGs that are most related to what SSE have been doing or advocating for the organization. So that would be my recap for my breakout room session.
Okay, thank you so much, Hirsa. That's a lot of wrap up actually, and we have get many insights from the discussion. Okay, I think we have come to the end of our webinar, so I'd like to invite all of you to turn on your camera.
Yes.
Okay, I think thank you very much for all of your participation, and we will please expect for more of our event in from ASEC PGMS and MyDG. Good day, and may God bless you in all your activity.
Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you,
Thank you.
everyone.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you, Chandra.
Okay, bye
Hirsa.
everyone.
Thank you.